Yes, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. HAVPA survey students. Um, this, the lesson today is going to be our last lesson before the quiz. And so, okay, let's begin with a few general statements. Hopefully, you were all up and listened to Mr. Turner this morning talk about changes at school, changes in policy, and yesterday, the governor sent out another directive, uh, which basically what that meant was that, and Mr. Turner didn't exactly say this, the assistant principals didn't exactly say this, but simply put, what Mr. Turner did, as you see today, I'm back broadcasting from my home, and I will be broadcasting from my home daily now until the end of this. And what Mr. Turner informed me, I was at school yesterday when I gave my broadcast yesterday. From I was at school, and I intended to be broadcasting from school most days. And I thought that I was practicing relatively safe social distancing, which, I mean, and I can say all I want about how we were practicing it, but the bottom line was this. About 11:30, Mr. Turner just came around, stuck his head in the door, and basically said that because the governor's new directive, not even teachers were allowed to be in the building. And so from this point going forward, I will be coming to your living room from my bedroom. Uh, and so that's what that is. And going forward, I do want to talk about your participation in this course. Yesterday, for example, I noticed that this video had 10 views, and I know what views are. Views means as much as watching the entire thing, listening to the entire lecture, taking notes on the entire lecture, and it might also mean that you click it on and say, oh God, he's talking again, and click it off. But 10, we have 23 students in the class. Well, tomorrow we have our first quiz, and that quiz is on Canvas. I told you it was on the email last night that I sent out. It will be a Canvas quiz. I don't think it's particularly hard, but it does go over, it's from the things that we've covered in this class. Much of it, in fact, if not all of it, we've covered via these YouTube chats. This is me teaching class like I always do it. Well, except in class, I don't get to sit down. And to be honest, in class, I do think it's more fun. In class, I've been sending you videos. I've been of this, that, and the other, which normally I would sit in class and we'd stop and I'd show it to you. That is can't be done right now. But we're having class, and class comes with assessment, and we are assessing this unit tomorrow, and that quiz will appear on Canvas. Look in Canvas, and you have notification. And the quiz will be open at 7 o'clock in the morning and shut down tomorrow night at 11:59. If you notice on your email, I also sent you the next unit, which is on Baroque, Baroque, which is a new movement in the art world, which will be the next subject we are covering. And so, and we'll begin and go forward with that. So, and I know I'm touching my face. I can't help it. My face itches sometimes. But, just me in the house, so it should be okay. But yeah, that's where we're going. And I cannot impress upon you the importance of staying diligent in class, because, depending upon what the participation rate in tomorrow's quiz, yeah, I'm going to start calling people. And then I'll start giving the name of the principal. I mean, the bottom line is, I don't know that there's anybody in this class, not even the number of people who have A's, whose average is strong enough to sustain getting complete zeros in the fourth quarter. I don't think that there are. And so all I'm saying is do your due diligence, read your emails, look at Canvas every day, and watch Channel Horton. And, utilize the study guides. Look at the videos I sent you. Look at the artworks. I wish so much that we could be sitting in school where I could put those works of art up on the screen for you and we could look at them and they would have our full attention. But, now the work is on you. You have to look at these things yourself. There's not going to be Mr. Horton there to gently or not so gently prod you on. So do your due diligence. Take care of business, as they used to say. Because one day this will all be over. And when it's over, you want to go back to your life and not go back to this class. And, that's where that is. Okay. So yeah, quiz tomorrow. And I'll be back online tomorrow and we'll be talking about Baroque for a certain period of time. But yeah, quiz tomorrow. And so, oops, that is not what I wanted to look at. Put that right there. And this is what I wanted to look at. Thank you very much. And so, yes, hopefully you've got your study guide out, or at least in front of you on your computer. Although, frankly, once again, I'm a giant proponent of making those study guides into paper and then making notes on the paper. But to each his own. Okay, so we're talking about the Northern Renaissance in England. When you say Renaissance in England, it's one word: Shakespeare. I mean, there were no great works of art that came out of England, but there was Shakespeare. And of course, literature is art form. There is a listing of the top 100 individuals of the last 1,000 years, of the year 1000 to the year 2000. Of the last 1,000 years. And on that list, Shakespeare is number 4. Why? I don't know. Perhaps because of his propulsion of the English language, perhaps because of his writing of these great, and trust me, I get along with Shakespeare as much as the next guy. He's hard to read, at least for me, and but the themes that he brings out of love and hate and vengeance, and and all these things become classic themes. To be real honest, they become the themes of so many of our modern plays, modern television shows, it's Shakespeare. If you ever watch or like just about any television show, just about any movie, they have Shakespearean themes in them. So let's finish this unit, and then you can have time to study for that quiz tomorrow, because it is coming. While most art in England lag behind its continental contemporaries, in other words, art in England is not part of the Renaissance. You don't see English paintings listed amongst the greats of the Renaissance. Theater in England was alive and well. That was their art. And you can't say theater in England, of course, without mentioning the greatest Western playwright of all time, William Shakespeare. Without going into too much detail, because to be real honest, Shakespeare for me is, I mean, I know probably about him a little, if any, more than most of you. But Shakespeare, without going into too much detail, Shakespeare wrote 3 categories: sonnets, which were 16-line poems, or is it 14? I always get them mixed up. But in other words, there are these poems that are of a certain length. And then there are his tragic plays. And a tragic play is just like the Greek tragedies, where the ending of the play normally ends in the death of the central character, where because of the characters, it means really kind of a rehashing of the old Greek theater, where because of the character's hubris, his pride, flaws that he might have had, and the flaws could include mercy, for example, or greed, or being power hungry, or something of that nature, jealousy. Because of the flaws, the character ends up most times dead. The most famous of Shakespeare's tragedies was Hamlet. Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark. Hamlet, the young man who suspected that his uncle had murdered his father so he could marry his mother. And in the end, Hamlet, of course, dies. In fact, in the Shakespearean play Hamlet, just about everybody dies. Julius Caesar, and we all know what happened to him. Othello is one of his lesser known plays, about a Moorish, that means North African, nobleman marrying a white woman and being insanely jealous of her. Pardon me. Macbeth. Macbeth. When I was in the 6th grade in Alabama, we did Macbeth. Our class. Can you imagine little Alabama 6th graders doing Macbeth? And if you've ever read Macbeth, I think some of you might have in your English classes. Macbeth, which is about this Scottish monarch, Macbeth, who accedes to the throne by murdering the king, and then himself in the end gets murdered. And in the 6th grade production of Macbeth, portly little me, I mean, I was a pud back then, plays the title role of Macbeth. And if you can remember, if you can imagine the lines of Macbeth spoken with Southern accents. Out, damn spot. Lay on, Macduff, and damn. We liked it because we got to say 4-letter words and not get punished for it. Lay on, Macduff, and damn be him who first says hold. Life is but a poor shadow. A poor actor who struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard from no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Yeah, pretty classic, right? Am I up for an Oscar yet? But yeah, those were King Lear. But I mean, yeah, Hamlet. Hamlet is his most remembered. Romeo and Juliet's a tragedy. It's more remembered, though, as a romance, but it's also a tragedy. Because, as you know, in the end, both Romeo and Juliet don't make it. Comedies. He also wrote comedies, which are not quite as well known. The most famous, Midsummer Night's Dream. Much Ado About Nothing, which is actually kind of a Seinfeldish thing. Much Ado About Nothing. These plays were done live by a troupe of male actors, as once again, women were not allowed to perform in the theaters. The parts of females were performed by prepubescent males with lots of makeup and lots of accoutrements. And it's really kind of interesting if you ever watch Shakespearean plays. Shakespearean plays, just like the old Greek plays, always, no matter whether it was comedy or tragedy, but they always had comic interludes. And the reason, once again, was quite practical because, these plays were done live on stage or live in an arena. And of course, the people who came to these plays were often pretty well plied with alcohol. And so, and they would get into the play because you say, how do you get into Shakespeare? You got to remember that the language Shakespeare used was pretty much the language of the day. In fact, if you ever read Shakespeare and you ever read the Bible in the King James Version of the Bible, the language sounds very, very similar. And that's why, because they're written about the same time. But anyway, so the crowd watching these Shakespearean play in the Globe Theater or wherever it was being performed, they'd get really into it, and they'd get really into drinking their alcohol, and they would become upset about, this character or that character. And it was not uncommon that, some drunk guy would charge the stage. And so in order to prevent that, in order to prevent the crowd from getting too into it, the Shakespeare would insert these comic characters, normally a comic servant or something like that, who would come and say something funny. And that would kind of like chill the tension for a while. But yes, these plays that were done at the time were done of course, in live, in the round, in a theater. And oftentimes, what a lot of people don't remember about Shakespearean plays, much of the subject matter was quite bawdy. For example, in Hamlet, if you read what Hamlet says about his own mom, he's actually turned on by his mother, which, but yeah, much of the subject matter was bawdy and would often be considered R-rated. But Shakespeare becomes such a classic that, a lot of the sayings from Shakespeare, I smell a rat, something is rotten in the state of Denmark, between a rock and a hard place, were inventions of Shakespearean plays. Now, here's the thing, though. Many people doubt that William Shakespeare, who was from the small town of Stratford-on-Avon in England, many people doubted that, because Stratford-on-Avon, even today, is a small village. I mean, it's kind of a tourist hangout now because everybody wants to come to see the home of Shakespeare. In fact, I went there, in 2013, back when you could travel. In 2013, Wes and I went to Stratford-on-Avon with this group of teachers. 2013, and I've talked about this before, Wes and I, my son, before he got married, and these eight other people were Beechwood teachers. We traveled across Ireland, and then we drove across England to London, where we dropped off the car. But one of the places we stopped and spent the night was Stratford-on-Avon. And once again, if you ever travel like that, going from place to place, sleeping in different places every night, it's pretty exhausting. It's pretty exhausting. You're not sleeping in your own bed, and you're always on the move, and it is pretty exhausting. And one of the things that my friend, who was the director of the tour, offered everybody were tickets to a Shakespearean play. We had in Stratford-on-Avon. We had to pay more for the tickets. Wes and I were too smart for this. We were not going to bite on that. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Howlett. So what, like I said, Wes and I were not going to bite. We were not going to pay for this because both of us had a sense of what Shakespearean plays were. I mean, yeah, sure. Well, you can always say that you went to Stratford on Avon. You got to see a Shakespearean play, but it's still Shakespeare, and in 2013, just like in 2020, Shakespeare is not the most riveting thing you can watch. And Wes and I knew that, and we were tired. And so when the rest of them, went to Stratford-on-Avon for the evening to watch a Shakespearean play, Wes and I said, we're not going to do that. And so we spent the night, we spent our evening, we drove into Stratford-on-Avon. I'm sorry for scratching my nose. We drove into Stratford-on-Avon, and we went to a kebab house, a little kebab restaurant owned by a Turkish guy. I remember that because this kebab restaurant, and if you don't know what a kebab is, they take meat and they have it on this spit that electronically turns around and around in front of a source of heat, slowly cooking. And to make your sandwich, they put it into a pita bread and they shave off the meat and put all sorts of spices in. It's really pretty cool. The kebab place was in an old Subway restaurant, not Subway, actual Subway, which ironically was right across the street. And I have a picture to prove this, right across the street from wait for it, Snappy Tomato, a Snappy Tomato pizza place. I mean, normally, Snappy Tomato is not one of those pizza places you hear about nationally, but there's a Snappy Tomato chain in Stratford-on-Avon. And so getting back to the point of my story is, Wes and I, we knew that would not be a good idea to go tired and watch a Shakespearean play. And we were right, because while Wes and I got our dinner and then we went back to our hotel and spent the evening, got to sleep at a decent time, all of our more cultured friends went to see Shakespeare. And the next day, even they had to admit they were sleeping, snoring, yeah. And yeah, Shakespeare is a classic. Yeah. And he will be mentioned on the matching section of your test tomorrow. Remember Hamlet, remember Midsummer Night's Dream. Okay, now to finish this off. Meanwhile, back in Italy, the birthplace of the Renaissance, the effects of the Reformation had taken its toll on the Roman Catholic Church. For example, in I think it was 1519, maybe it was a little later, 1520, a German army actually went to Rome and sacked and burned much of the city of Rome. And Martin Luther actually witnessed that. And so the effects of the Reformation had taken its toll on the Roman Catholic Church. For one thing, a lot of people left the Roman Catholic Church. And one of the things that resulted from this upheaval was that the Catholic Church finally took a look at itself and said, we're going to make certain changes to fix the obvious abuses of church policy. This is called the Catholic Reformation, or its more popular name, the Counter-Reformation. Now, we're going to study more about this in the next unit. This is actually ushers in the Baroque period. We'll study more about this in the next unit. But basically, from the art standpoint, what the Catholic Church tries to do in the Counter-Reformation and the Counter-Reformation is say, hey, wait a minute, we lost a lot of people to this new Protestant Reformation. Let's get them back. Well, how do you get them back? Well, the Protestant churches went plain. In other words, Protestant churches, and I went to a few of them in Europe, they are plain. They don't have the color. They don't have the icons. They don't have the stained glass windows. They don't have the beautification. Well, the Roman Catholic Church said, well, the Protestant churches are going plain. We're going the other way. We're going to make our churches much, much, much more beautiful to retain our membership, to retain people, to remind people that the road to heaven goes through here. Anyway, so music became more conservative in its nature, particularly church music. On the other hand, Italian theater was the forerunning influence to William Shakespeare. The classic models of Plautus and Terence. Plautus and Terence were classic Greek and actually more Roman, were these Roman comedic characters. Plautus and Terence, Terence and Plautus. And when it says there in your study guide, does that look familiar to anyone? You'd have to watch South Park, right, Mr. Halleck? You'd have to watch South Park, Terence and Philip. Yes. If you've ever seen South Park, all the kids love this comedy sketch show that originates in Canada called Terence and Philip. And in Terence and Philip, these two characters, all they ever do to get laughs is they pass gas. And then the kids just think, the four boys just think that's the height of comedy. Right, Mr. Halleck? And, you know, that, to be honest, Plautus and Terence were pretty much the same. Body humor, you know, things of that nature. And that became popular in Italy. Commedia, this is comedy, Italian comedy. Commedia dell'arte is improvisational comedy. Improv, you know, improv is a type of comedy where I don't know that I've ever liked it particularly. Yes, Terence and Plautus, Mr. Halleck. Improv is a type of comedy that is still practiced today, where you go to a club and you have these comedians who will try to make up comedy on the spot. Me, I think good comedy deserves good planning. You know, it's very difficult for somebody to just sit up there and be funny off the bat. Yes, but improv was born in Italy, improvisational comedy. Not only did this art form follow the barest plot lines, just like today. I mean, if you ever go to a comedy club, an improv club, I mean, what they do is they say, okay, give us a situation, you know, a comedic situation or some kind of situation. And the crowd will shout something, and then they'll try to make something funny of it. I'm not a fan. But that was born in Italy. It followed the barest plot lines, but for the first time did allow females to act. Now, the other types of performances were grave, Grave. It just means serious. Yeah, serious performances. In Italy, the Italians are the first to allow females to enter the acting, into the acting arena. Although I will say, at the same time, while the Italians did allow male and female performances, they did not allow actors to receive communion. Yeah. These last things, as it says, as the Renaissance lurched toward its end in Italy, some artists began to add human elements to Christian classical themes. Artists are Giorgione, who created The Tempest, Paul Veronese, who did his own Marriage of Cana, and Titian's Bacchus and Ariadne. To be real honest, I didn't find those especially noteworthy enough to put on your test. But yeah, if we would have had those in class, we would have taken the time to look at those. I hope that you did take the time to look at the very classical paintings that I sent you last night. Girl with Pearl Earring. While, you know, it's not anywhere near as well known as the Mona Lisa, is often called the Northern Mona Lisa. And then, of course, the other classic works of art I sent you, The Hunter's Return by Peter Bruegel the Elder. Once again, none of those names are as important as the High Renaissance paintings. But yeah, and so yeah, we're at the half hour now, and so tomorrow I will come on for a little while and begin talking about the Baroque period. which I will begin with sending you a Rick Steves video. One of my favorites is where he actually goes into the Vatican. He actually goes into the Vatican. I'll send you that one. One day this will all be over. Although, well, one day it's going to be over. And one day we'll be traveling again. And one day you've got to promise yourself that you will see the inside of the Vatican. It is a work of art that is just outstanding. I have heard, and by the Vatican, I mean the entire St. Peter's Basilica, which is also on the test, by the way, St. Peter's Basilica. I have heard that you can now go online for free and see the inside of the Louvre. You can go online for free and see the inside of St. Peter's Basilica, which would definitely be worth seeing. And so, yeah, this is where I'm going to end for today. And I will pick up tomorrow with this quiz. And yeah, please read your emails. Please monitor Canvas. Please continue watching Channel Horton. Watch the videos. And stay safe. Goodbye for now. Forgot how to, no. Oh, there it is.